The term break is now upon us, and for year 12s, this is definitely the most important time of the year in terms of your exam preparation. This is a time that can make or break your year 12 performance at the end of the year, and this is definitely not a holiday, unfortunately. This is the best time to consolidate what you've been learning, catch up on any work that you have, and get prepared for these exams. And this is probably the last time to get a proper mental recharge until the end of this year. However, it's really unfortunate for me to see this time and time again, every single year, that high achievers are misusing their term 2 holidays, and this just makes it much, much harder for them to achieve the grades they really want. Either they don't get the grades they want, or they have to put a lot more effort in to get those results. And frankly, a lot of them burn out as well with their wrong preparation. So today we're gonna look at what do you actually have to be doing to prevent that. Hey guys, Archie here, a second year medical student, and on this channel we focus on being intentional with our time so we can focus on the things and people that matter most to us. Usually the term break is completely misunderstood by year 12s, and people think often that this is just a time to grind out more practice questions or take a little bit of a break. Depending on who you are, this is really not the way that you want to be thinking about it. And we also need to find this very good sweet spot where we are being very productive with the time that we have. Maybe you have the UCAT on as well, and you're also getting enough of a break so that you can, go full throttle up until your end of year exams. I'm going to be going through why these holidays are so important for you, what you should not be doing, what you should be doing, and how to set up your exam preparation from now. And most importantly, why you should be taking some time off during this. Let's just acknowledge that this is probably going to be the last break that you guys have until you finish your, schooling in high school. Now, if you guys found that term 2 was pretty busy, and I imagine that's a lot of you, term 3 is unfortunately just going to be even busier. In fact, it's the busiest term of year 12. You're going to have harder tests, you're going to have more assessments because teachers are cramming it all in before those exams. And all the knowledge that you've been learning is probably going to be used in these further tests as well. That's why term 2 is really the last opportunity for you to catch up on work that you already haven't done. If you're not 100% on all of your content and understand everything that you've done so far, then you're gonna find it really hard to keep up in term 3. One of the most important things in learning things quicker is by knowing more things, having more context or background. For example, you can't learn algebra without knowing what numbers are first, and you can't learn calculus without knowing algebra. So, if you didn't even know what algebra was, you're just gonna have such a hard time even understanding what calculus is. So, the more prerequisite knowledge that you have makes new things easier to learn. And that's kind of how university works as well, because they assume that you know stuff from year 12 and all of high school so that you can learn content at a much faster rate and a lot more of it in university. And to make matters worse, a lot of you guys have been affected by COVID, which means you're gonna have even more work to catch up on because you haven't been in class. The next thing that's most important is the forgetting curve. I've showed this many times and we can look at it here, and this basically just tells us that after looking at a piece of information, there is gonna be some time that it takes before you completely forget it, which makes sense, but you want to be interrupting this forgetting curve, and that's what spaced repetition is all about. And it's kind of the holy grail technique of, in YouTube these days. The reason it's so popular is because it actually interrupts this forgetting curve, and that's what we want. This means eventually that you'll be able to retain the content that you want to for longer because the forgetting curve actually gets lengthened by interrupting it. But I think a lot of people focus just on interrupting the forgetting curve. I actually like to focus a lot more on lengthening the forgetting curve. So every time that you interrupt it, how are you going to make sure that you can optimize how long you will retain that information afterwards? That comes a lot down to the techniques that you might be using, like inquiry-based learning or, mind mapping. And that's why I highly recommend those now, and I don't really use Anki that much. This is so important right now because at this time of year, all the content that you've been learning from the start of the year is very easy to forget. And this is kind of what hinders a lot of students from having enough time to prepare for exams. Pretty much most students that I talk to always wish that they have maybe 1 or 2 extra weeks just before their exams because they felt they just didn't have enough time. And a lot of these people had started in term 3 as well. However, right now is not too late. In fact, it's the best time to be doing this sort of stuff. So I really, really recommend that you make the time to do this. And a lot of you might be saying that you don't have the time to do this. Well, it means that you're going to have to make the time for it because eventually you're going to have to relearn this stuff. And the reason why it's so important to prioritize it now is because if you fall off the forgetting curve, it is much harder to relearn something than to revise it. So really you don't have the option unless you want to have to sacrifice some part, whether your understanding of the content or your retention of the content. So not only will you not be able to relearn all the stuff to the required detail, it will lead to bad cramming and then potentially bad results. So if you use these holidays effectively, this can be the thing that separates you from the rest and makes you that top achiever. And here's the thing, probably a lot of people who are going to get 99 plus ATARs have probably already started. So you have to catch up. Let's take a look at some of the common mistakes that people make as well. The most common mistake is people try to feel very productive by giving themselves so much work to do. And frankly, they just do too much. Everyone's always gonna have 24 hours in a day. So what it really matters is to prioritize what are the things that are gonna actually move the needle for you. You need to focus on the biggest, most important things that are gonna help you in the future. A very easy example of showing this is focusing on topics and going through them in a chronological order to revise them. It's always not something you don't wanna be doing because you're not gonna be going through the order that's gonna be best for you. You should be focusing on the things that you're most weakest at that point, and then work your way to the things that you are most confident in. I know that there's a lot of people right now who are going to be studying for like 8+ to 12+ hours in these holidays. And if that is you, that means that essentially your study techniques are inefficient. I've basically just had all of my second year med school exams, and these are much more content than year 12. And I have not even studied 8 hours within a day. Part of that is because I haven't even had 8 hours, but I wouldn't even do that if I did. You do not need to be at your desk studying for 8 hours a day, only unless your study techniques cannot cope with anything less. Secondly, by doing some of these things, you might be setting yourself up for burnout in term 3, which is the very worst time to burn out, and which is where most people burn out because of how much work there is to do. And the worst thing of all of this is that this can give you false confidence. I hear so many times, and this happened to me in school as well, where people will be asking, oh, how many hours have you studied? Oh, I studied 8 hours. Oh, how many did you do? 12. And then it's trying to make yourself sound better amongst your friends and stuff. I would actually take pride in doing less than other people. So I don't know about you guys. The thing that's wrong with this is that you can actually get some false confidence. You'll feel like you're productive, you're getting lots of stuff done, but how do you actually know if there's learning occurring inside your brain and that it's going to stick for a long time? And imagine that there's going to be a lot of people who are studying a lot and they'll get a wake-up call in term 3 when they get grades that they're not expecting, and by then it's too late. We are always about effective learning, and you guys know that the alternative is not sustainable. And another thing as well is the people who don't do too much. People who get complacent with the grades that they've been getting so far might not use these term 2 holidays as effectively as they should. And this can be quite detrimental again, because the end of year assessments are always things that people, underwhelmingly, fail at. Even if you're getting like top grades, A+ and stuff, that is not a very reliable predictor and indicator that you're gonna get the same grades in your exam results. The exams are always gonna be much harder than the tests and, SACs and all that sort of stuff you guys have already been doing. Hopefully all you guys are not those people who have completely gone into holiday mode, but do not be complacent within this time. This is the time to get a real advantage. And the thing is, you have to find the balance between doing too much and not enough. So let's talk about exam revision. The matter of the fact is you need to start now if you haven't already. I started in January, which meant that I never had really this time where I was in exam prep mode until the very last days when I had no assessments at all. I was doing exam prep every single weekend. For a lot of you, that might seem quite extreme, but the fact was that instead of cramming it all within this term 3 area, I was just chilling. By spreading it out so much, it was just a little bit by a little bit every time. That's not really an option for everyone now. So let's look at the things that we can be doing. If you have 4 to 6 subjects and you want to score in the top against, this literally means, the best compared to everyone around you, that really means that in the final few weeks before exams, that is nowhere near enough time for you to excel. It's not enough time for you to revise the content, consolidate it to an exam level comprehension, and develop the ability and skill to apply these to those hardest problem solving questions. Being exam ready is quite different from being test ready. Tests are based off stuff that's been recently learned, where exams are testing you on your mastery of content. Most students think that they can just start prepping a few months before, but this is what everyone does anyway. But every single year, these students realize that term 3 is just way too busy and start to push it back. I cannot emphasize enough, you guys have time right now and you should be using it, because soon enough you'll realize you do not have time. And you're gonna really wish that you used up this time because of how special this is right now. Soon enough, you'll be neck deep into term 3 and then, you just gotta keep going. The other most important thing with all of this is you need to make sure that your exam preparation is on point. This doesn't mean just doing practice papers like everyone else. Remember, if you want to be scoring in the top 1%, you have to be doing the things that 99% of people are not willing to do. And that's not studying 12 hours a day. There are more than 1% of people who are doing that. And there's more than 1% of people who are using practice papers, doing flashcards, all the stuff that everyone does. You genuinely have to have things that separate you from the rest. And on this channel, it's always about study techniques. And in fact, if you are a student in South Australia, I will be teaching everything that I know and wish that I knew in my workshops coming up next week. So if you are interested in that, make sure to click down on the link below. This is easily the most important workshops that I will be running this whole year because of how crucial term 2 holidays actually are. Now, as these term 2 holidays are actually called holidays, it makes sense to use it as a break to mentally recharge. A lot of you would have had some sort of tests or exams at this point at the end of term 2, which kind of would have drained you out. So why would you take time off? Well, firstly, we are human. We actually need breaks to literally survive. You literally cannot work non-stop forever, and this is not going to be even the thing that separates you from the rest. In order to perform at your peak, you need to have your well-being in terms of physical and mental health being amazing. Let's look at what burnout really means. The research kind of shows that if you burn out, that means that your ability to get the grade that you usually would get would drop by a whole grade band. And it basically halves your productivity completely. And it will take so much effort just to get to the point where you were before. So the consequences for burnout are really, really high. And that's why this is so important to actually focus on as well. You know, these study techniques are really nothing if you can't even, do them. And the thing that I always say about productivity is about doing the right thing at the right time. And sometimes that literally means having a break. And another thing is that these breaks have to be really effective and productive as well. And that means that you have a proper break where you can switch off completely and rest as you need to. There are many ways that you can be doing this, and a lot of you have individual interests. So for example, I might go play guitar, or I might play some video games, whatever, floats your boat. For me now, that's usually just doing exercise or meeting up with friends, as much as I love doing that. So those are the things that I always ensure that's scheduled within my calendar. Another thing is that developing keystone habits is probably going to be some of the things that can help you out the most for the rest of this year. Some keystone habits include, obviously the things like getting enough exercise or getting enough sleep. And neither of these things are actually even possible if you don't have good study techniques in place, because you'll just be studying way too much and sacrificing too many things for study. And I cannot understate how important sleep is for people our age. It literally, the research shows us that we have to actually be sleeping 9 hours a day at our age. I bet a lot of you are not even getting 9 hours. And sleep on its own can enhance everything that you do. It means that every single task that you're going to be doing is going to be more productive as well. And it's a motivating thing on top of that. Please do what you can do to ensure that you're getting enough done within the day so you can prioritize your sleep. The fact that you guys are still watching this video means that you guys are serious about your grades and your preparation, and that's great to see. So remember, this is the last time to play catch up and really get ahead of the crowd and take full advantage of these holidays. If you're interested to watch some of my videos on how to study and prepare for particular subjects, make sure to check out my playlist here. All right, thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.